So what have lawyers been doing for literally 1,000 years or more? We have been drafting trusts with the idea of avoiding taxes at death. So let's say, for discussion's sake, we have that same $4 million estate. So here's what the attorneys will almost very often do, and I promise you that there are people in this room that have the exact setup that I'm going to describe. All right, we draft trusts, and one of the trusts, and one of the modern types of trusts that is very common, and it goes by different names. Some people call it the B Trust. Some people call it the Exemption Equivalent Trust. Some people call it the Unified Credit Shelter Trust. But it's basically the same thing, and what it says is, upon death, one exemption equivalent amount, which is now $2 million, but will likely go higher, that goes into a trust, and the terms of the trust might even be familiar to you. The surviving spouse will get the income. They will get the right to invade principal for health maintenance and support, and at the second death, it goes to the kids equally. Well, that's not such a bad deal. Surviving spouse has the income and the right to invade principal for $2 million, and they have $2 million on their own, of their own money. Okay? So let's assume that this happens. Let's forget about growth to keep things simple. Now the surviving spouse dies. Let's do the estate tax return of the surviving spouse. The whole point of this trust is, since the surviving spouse only had the income from this money and they didn't own it, it's not in their estate. Okay? So the only money that's in their estate is the money that's in their name, the $2 million. They have a $2 million exemption, which means the tax on that is zero. So we might have saved the family, in terms of combined income and estate taxes, well over $1 million by using this trust. So lawyers get very excited, and this is very common. So this is a pretty good thing, right, to use this traditional retirement plan? No, it's awful. It's awful. I'll tell you why. Because the way these trusts are drafted is, it says the maximum amount that is the current Unified Credit Shelter exemption amount. So now it's $2 million, but let's say that the person died in 2009, let's forget changes, then what would happen is you could end up with $3.5 million in the trust. Only $500,000 to the surviving spouse. And then, to make it worse, what if this $500,000 isn't liquid? What if it's a house? Or what if it is a non-liquid asset? Then the surviving spouse has the income from this, they get the right to invade principal, but they lose control of the marital assets. When you're both alive, both of you have control of all your marital assets. Using this type of plan, it is very possible, even likely, that the surviving spouse will lose control of a substantial amount of assets. Or what happens if you don't have a $4 million estate? What happens if it's a $2 million estate? Well, it says the maximum amount, $2 million, goes into the trust, leaving the surviving spouse nothing. Well, gee, Jim, but I get health maintenance and support. I get the right to invade principal. Well, what if you want to go to Aruba? What if you want to help your grandchildren with their education? What if you want to do a lot of things that aren't health maintenance and support?